you have the confidence that you can accept the loss.
As a point of interest, none of my men wear protection when going. None.
After all, you wouldn't want your attacker to get injured.
That hurt my foot.
Welcome to Big D After Dark. So excited to have you all join us this evening and talk FC Dallas soccer, talk North Texas, talk about upcoming a busy week of action for FC Dallas fans, especially at home as we look ahead to an Open Cup match and Houston Dynamo. So a lot to get to tonight. We're going to get right into it. Of course, I'm Nathan Hill. You can follow me at Nathan J. Hill. There in the middle is our good buddy Jose Carmona at El Chico
Hello.
Carmona. And there on the end is our good friend Ishmael Belcora at Belcora Ishma on Twitter. Please follow us. Please follow us for a good commentary and links and banter of life and FC Dallas and soccer and so on. But we're going to get right into it. We need your comments. We need you to share the stream. We want to keep growing this conversation and have a lot of fun together because it is after dark. That means we have some banter. We get a little salty sometimes, and we have some fun talking about FC Dallas. So right off the bat, FC Dallas traveled to Harrison, New Jersey to take on the New York Red Bulls and came away with another point on the road, which has been a rare thing in recent seasons for FC Dallas. It's always hard in Major League Soccer to come away with road points, but FC Dallas did that, earning a clean sheet behind some great goalkeeping by Martin Pass, who we'll hear from in just a moment. Unable to get the attack going, but they kind of did their job defensively. And it was a bit of a wet condition, bit of a little slimy match out there, but hey, you can't take too many excuses, especially when you come away with a point at the very least. So let's just get some reactions to the match, some positives that you saw, some things that left you wanting more, and of course, if you're watching and you want to pop in with your own comments and questions, send them into the comments, and we'll bring them into the show. Jose, what were your reactions to this away match against Red Bulls?
Well, another scrappy performance on the road. They didn't really generate a lot of shots, but you could see that they were playing for a draw, at least to keep it close, and then hopefully get the fresh legs in and create shots down the stretch, which they did generate, actually. If that's the game plan. I think a frustration that you got from all the fans that were watching or that, they got to see it was how late Nico waited to bring in those subs. So you have to wonder if he had gone to the bench earlier, if maybe they would have generated more chances, because the chances that had a chance to actually score mostly came once the subs came in like the last 10, 12 minutes of the match. And honestly, a lot of us thought, I don't know if a lot of us, but I know I was one of the people that thought that was the game plan, was keep it 0-0 and then try to win it late. But geez, not that late. Mm-hmm. But yeah, pass again. Incredible. I think Ismail will be happy to say that Tuamasi looked like a stud on defense out there. And
he did.
Like I said, they weren't perfect on defense, but you're seeing this team is very scrappy on defense. They maybe don't play perfect positional, but you see their scrambling abilities and their willingness to jump in and throw their bodies to create blocks and whatnot. That's a testament to how much this team is fighting to get that shutout, and it's great to see. And I think, I think you have to be happy with a point on the road. I'll take it.
Ishmael, what about you?
I'll go. We've had a good
for 7 games, and I think when you look at the performances and the score lines, I don't think any of them raise too many red flags. I think it is slightly worrying that we haven't had not even just a dominating performance, but like a performance where we outshined the other team since Portland. Because the Colorado game, I mean, we won by a decent margin, but it wasn't squeaky clean. Um, I think the other thing I would say is that yes, there's some frustrations with Lucci, but my main worry from Lucci isn't the subs, which is really annoying.
You mean Nico?
Nico.
Nico, that's not a good sign. Um,
That's great though.
but
We were
it's not
talking
just
about Lucci before we came on, so that's where
hey,
that's
Nico
from.
and Lucci, their similarities, bad subbing patterns. But anyway, the main issue I see with Nico is that this system is pushing the midfielders really wide. Paxton and Cervania are operating almost as like wide midfielders, and what that's causing is that in this game it was Faku who had to deal with an entire attack in midfield running at him, and it's an attack in midfield that is crazy with press. So, I mean, I don't know. I would like we talked about how Nico would adapt to the opposition, and he did that early on, especially with Nashville and Portland. But we haven't really seen that until like late in the game. And I don't know, like having Faku take on the entire young Red Bull attack, that was asking a lot from Faku. And I think all in all, he had a good performance, all things considered, when you have that attack coming at him, and he's basically the only midfielder. He makes his mistakes because he always does, but it's just I don't know. It's going into a game like Houston, who also will press and counterattack like Red Bulls. Something has to change because I don't know if we want to test our luck a fourth time in a row.
Yeah. I think you make some good points there.
I'm glad he kept pointing out Faku because it goes to show that he had his best game of the season, and at least shows us why they're rotating him with Cerrillo, because he does have his value, and it looks like I believe this is his second road match that he started, so it appears that I'm not saying it's definite, but maybe that is the rotation. Maybe it's Quinion on the road and Cerrillo at home.
Good, and of course, I'm for some of us keeping an eye on the Mavs match. The Mavs are playing tonight in the playoffs, and they're pulled within 3. So let's keep it going there. Or some of you don't care, evidently. But anyway, yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Like there were a lot of like those scrambling moments in the match that you're grateful it came off for FC Dallas. I remember Matt Hedges clearing the ball off the line when Past came out of goal. To stop a shot, and luckily Hedges was there. So Red Bulls certainly had their chances. Maybe you could say they were a little unlucky not to get something else, but I think also Dallas has been solid. I think it's something to build upon. So just touching upon those two things. First, got a quick post-game media clip from Nico. I asked Nico, head coach Nico Estevez, just if he was concerned at all about the lack of chances going forward in this match. The team had some struggle connecting the midfield to keeping the ball, which is common against a Red Bulls pressing team, but also when they were able to get the attack in the final third, it just didn't quite come off. So here's a quick response as I asked him that.
I think that Franco Jara and Jader are very clear chances. And usually Franco scores that type of chances in front of the goalkeeper, and Jader had a really good chance, and then we just missed one with Paul that he didn't cross the ball, and we had another cross that Jesus was near. I think to play in a way and against a team that high press like this, we did enough to score at least one goal, and I'm not worried because we knew where we were coming. We came to a war here, and we knew it. and we just fought until the end. And I'm very proud of the guys.
Proud of the guys. I feel like he's being a little rosy on that picture of chances. I mean, there were, Hara had a really good chance that probably was one of the better of the game. He's got to get, more on. Hyder had a good chance near the end there, although it was a tough one. It's always one at an angle, which can be a little harder than it seems. But when you look at that first half, especially, there just wasn't a ton of opportunities for this attack. I mean, it does seem, we hope this team at least doesn't end up being like a feast and famine type attack, right? We'd like for them to get that sense of, they don't just score in bunches, but they figure out ways to score consistently. And as of yet, we're not quite seeing that. But on the road, of course, it's hard, right? So are you concerned, Ishmael, about the attack so far?
And I think it's a collective thing, right? Because I think we've seen that when the attack is given opportunities, like with Jesus' hat trick and brace, and the fact that we've had at this point, I think, 3 multi-goal games. I think we've shown that we can score. I mean, that was an early worry, but I think that's been alleviated at this point. And I think the main issue is, again, the connection, right? And I know this game is different because the Red Bulls are the highest pressing team in the league. But that's, I think, a good gauging point to see what the extreme will cause for this group, right? I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. And that extreme caused us for a 25-30 minute stretch, I swear to God, where we did not get out of our own half. And that might be hyperbole, but it was bad. It was really bad. And I mean, that it was a scramble where we showed our grit, but that shouldn't be necessary. That really shouldn't. And I mean, even on the road, it doesn't. The thing with the high press is that we'll leave gaps, and that was never exploited. It was, I don't know. I think, again, this kind of press won't be seen in the league unless another team decides to replicate what the Red Bulls did against FC Dallas, because it looked like it worked. This might be the team's Achilles heel, but you're not going to get a lot of teams in the league that just play possession or just have one style of play. It will always be different. They will always have things up their sleeve. So teams will always press. And if this is how Dallas reacts every time, and the fact that Paxton and Cervania are basically on the wings, meaning that the play basically just tried to force through the wings and forcing Jesus to drop even further back to do little interchanges. There has to be a mentality switch or something that just tells you, hey, one of the midfielders has to stay in the middle, or Paxton or Cervania has to stay in the middle and just camp there. Don't, when in the attack, move a little bit, but stay around the center part of the field just to be able to be an option. Because when there's no option, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And our friend Ben there, with a nice comment, the early season book on how to play us, press us, and we will play long balls over the top. And not always the most successful action so far. You would think when Hyder's O'Brien is on the field that speed would help. I mean, Paul Areola has some speed too, and Velasco. But so far, that hasn't really worked. I mean, it just hasn't been the strategy. I think that's paid
I think the problem with that is that not everybody's equipped for that. So there's teams that will be able to do situational pressing on FC Dallas from time to time. But let's face it, to run that kind of style, you need high-level fitness and a deep bench and young legs. And there's not going to be a lot of teams able to do what the Red Bulls do. There'll be teams that will be able to mimic it for a time. But like Ishmael said, it's not something that everybody does. So I would say it's a pass test. This is something where I would say we were all concerned of the havoc that press would cause on Dallas, and it did cause some havoc, but not to the extent we thought, and they passed it. So I think we would expect improvement the next time we see it is the right thing to say.
Yeah, I just think that there's like the issue I have is just combining this with the Colorado game, because in the Colorado, like Red Bulls, their press is overloading, right? They overload very quickly just to force a mistake, whether that be a bad clearance or an interception or just whatever. What Colorado did was they pressed one on one on defense and just caused duel after duel after duel, and FC Dallas in the first half could not win a single duel. It was not pretty. So my issue is two different kinds of pressing, two different intensities of pressing, cause them to look very bad, especially in the first half. And I mean that just tells me that in the build up, they're FC Dallas is reactionary. They don't they don't move the ball quick enough. They don't move off the ball quick enough. Their decision making is off slightly. So I mean, again, Red Bulls, it's not going to happen. And Colorado was very unique with their 3-4-3 kind of dueling press, but teams will look to these games. I mean, that's what this league is, again, right? Because I mean, Seattle has done pressing games before when they play with their young sides, when they just rotate like crazy. Those kinds of games exist, and I mean, if we don't have a game plan by at least like weekday 15, that's worrying, because then you enter into the stretch of a season where teams get desperate. They just look at the past games and just be like, let's mimic what they failed to defend. And that's it's just, there needs to be some kind of improvement with attacking through the press.
Well, my concern isn't them handling the press. I think they handled the press. My concern is them not being able to take advantage of the weaknesses in the press, which is why you see such a lopsided, disappearance of the attack. Now, they were able to exploit some weaknesses in Colorado's press eventually, not so much so in the Red Bull press. So I think that's the concern. I mean, I think they've shown they can handle it, they can defend it, they can sustain themselves against it. But you want to see more than that. You don't want to see a team just surviving. You want to see a team that finds a way to then exploit the weaknesses that those kind of attacks, defensive presses, have. And we failed to see that against the Red Bulls until weak, tired legs kicked in the last 10 minutes or so.
Well, let's just, one of the big bright spots, we've already mentioned him, was Martin Pass, and did ask Coach Nico about him, and Nico just said this is why we scouted in him, what we saw in him. We're going to get to this nice choice comment here in a moment. But let's hear from I got to ask Pass just kind of how he was settling in, how he was feeling about the start to the season, and it's just good to hear from him.
It's been great so far. I think we're one of the least scored on defense. Like, I think I saw Philadelphia took 2 goals, so I was a little bit cheering for that as well. No, I mean, I'm really happy here. I can be myself on and off the pitch. Me and my girlfriend together, we're really enjoying life at the moment here, and I hope it can continue like that.
Short and sweet, but good to hear him settling in. I do think the question will be when FC Dallas decides to purchase, or if they're going to try to negotiate for another lower cost or something. But, it seems like he's been solid. Yeah.
They could also negotiate an extension too, which is another thing.
Right, but he's been so solid. It seems like he's fitting in here. And if he's enjoying life in Frisco, why wouldn't you want to keep him around? But just impressed with him so far in this season. He's been a bright spot. By the way, our buddy Javier American says Nano was missing on the attacking front. Just to mess with Ismail.
Nano was injured, if I remember correctly. So
he was
that's
injured.
what I heard, that he was injured. So
yeah, here's a good question from Ben.
Defending would have been awful, man.
It could have been pretty bad. Tomasi had a good game, and I was pleased with Quinone too. He came through by the end. By the end, he really was in control. But here's Ben saying, has there been another player that hit the ground running, starting from day one, and played this well, like Pass? And That's a good
Grayson.
question.
He
Grayson?
didn't say pass. He could be talking about Nano for all we know. No, I'm sure he's talking about pass.
Talking about Franco Hara, but okay. Yeah, no, I can tell Javier is having a good time.
I mean, Pass. I think I'm not. I don't think I'm as high as a lot of people are, but he's probably the best goalkeeper we've had. Mm, yeah, maybe since Kevin Hartman. I think he is really just really that solid. And I mean, I don't think he talked about Philadelphia. I don't think he'll be at the echelon of like Andre Blake, where he just pulls off a miraculous save every like 45 minutes. But I think he has a potential to get there, right? He's 23. Like having that baseline of just being that solid day in, day out. I mean, the only mistake kind of that we've seen him do is that header in this week on this
Right.
weekend, which I mean we saw hints of that. I think it was the San Antonio preseason game where he just came out like even farther out from the box on a counterattack and just headed it even but farther where it went out. So that might be his like his little thing. Him wanting to head the ball and be an outfield player once in a while. But I mean, he's solid. He's good. He's not like excelling in one type of thing, but he's just very good all around.
Yeah, and I glad you brought that up because I'm not saying it's a weakness, but in a league like this, it's a good way to get injured because it gives offensive minded players, who are physical themselves, a good chance to get in a nice shoulder or a nice, leg or something, and that happens in this league. And when you come out there that far, you leave yourself open to something like that. So.
Well, shifting over to our MLS Next Pro team, North Texas SC, also earned
Looking
road
good.
points. Huge, big win against the San Jose Earthquakes 2. Interestingly enough, a game which featured Shea Salinas late, the MLS veteran, longtime veteran. 33, 34 years
35.
old. 35. Oh my!
Texas.
Almost.
He's a Texas born and raised.
And he's a
from
Texan.
Lubbock.
I always wondered if he would end up in Dallas at some point, but he's with the Quakes too right now. I guess rehabbing or whatever. But a huge goal late from Bernard Kumungo, who has now scored in 3 straight matches. North Texas earns all 3 points on the road. I was hoping to have some video with Coach Call, but wasn't able to get it in time. And just say that I am impressed by this head coach. I'm impressed by what he's doing with this team, and they're a fun team to watch. That's it. They're battling.
Yeah, I watched the game, and there was a very interesting shift in the formation and the tactics at halftime. They came out with their typical 4-3-3, and really weren't looking all that good. It was really, honestly, not much different than the Red Bull match with FCD, really, where they were basically having to scramble a lot. So what happened is they brought in the kid from Germany, Mulatto, in for Blaine Ferry, actually, and they went to a 4-2-3-1 and just altered their formation and gave up possession, which is not like North Texas. North Texas likes to have possession. I think they ended up with only 40% possession in this match, so it was a completely change of style. And but you got to see their speed used on defense, where they were swarming. They were playing swarming defense, and it wasn't uncommon for San Jose to have a guy with the ball have 2-3 guys converging him out of nowhere. And there was a lot of turnovers in midfield going both ways. It was very, very, very different game that you normally see from North Texas, which, by the way, did not play Parker and did not play Bartlett, who were probably going to play
Open Cup
in the USOC. Right? So you got to see the Canadian kid, who actually looked really solid, and Nolan Norris played at left back, and and he wasn't outstanding, but he was solid. He was passable. A good. I'm not gonna say he looked great, and he did get pulled in the 73rd minute as a response to Salinas coming in, but he was solid enough for the first time I've seen him since preseason.
Yeah, and you wonder. Earlier on, we talked about some of the criticism about the late sub from Nico, which was a bit frustrating, especially when it wasn't like the team was playing super hot. FC Dallas wasn't, but maybe that does, point to Nico's thinking about this U.S. Open Cup match, that he was hoping to keep his bench fairly fresh and give them an opportunity to go up against FC Tulsa. But so
Yeah.
that's a nice nugget.
I do agree with that. I do think that's we didn't know at the time, but afterwards after it was all said and done, you're like, well, it does look like maybe he wants to make sure we're fresh against Tulsa. We don't know that for sure, but I mean that's one theory. And like I said, he didn't play any. The only two FC Dallas players that played with North Texas were Carrera and Colin Smith, who are both loaned to the team for the year, and nobody else. So it was mostly North Texas guys and a couple of kids from the academy, notably Nolan Norris, Santi Ferreira, and Baker came in late, I believe.
Well, good stuff. Well, let's shift to this week, and think about first up, of course, is tomorrow night, Tuesday evening. FC Tulsa comes into town. I keep an eye on Tulsa. I've been to one of their matches when they were still called the Roughnecks at that point. So if they're on, especially with Oklahoma City Energy out of action for the year, kind of reorganizing. So Tulsa is kind of the only Oklahoma option I've got if I want to watch Oklahoma team. And I'll just say the team looks like a USL championship team. They've got they're not as quite as raw as a next pro team or even a USL League One, but they've got a couple of younger players that look interesting, that look like they could have potential, and they've got some. I think they got a El Salvadorian national team player. They've got
Joaquin Rivas.
Yeah, they've got some guys who have some experience and have bounced around and have also been successful in USL Championship. So it's a solid team. They have played well. I mean, their left back, Gabby Torres, I think is an interesting prospect. He's made the USLC Team of the Week 2 or 3 weeks in a row. He's been solid, a playmaker kind of guy. I think he has promise to maybe be in a Major League Soccer team in the future, because left backs, you always need a good left back or even a depth piece, But it'll be interesting to see kind of how this team lines up. Obviously, it's at home, though, so FC Dallas should be comfortably taking care of business here.
And I mean, I think Tulsa, their weakness is their defense. They have one of the worst defenses in the East with, if I'm not mistaken, 13 goals conceded. But conversely, they have one of the best attacks with 12 goals scored. And I mean, I think that's a little bit due to that winger Joaquin Rivas. They have a striker from the old MLS days, an old GA player, JJ Williams, who I always thought was very just has the athleticism, just not the technique to be in MLS. He's a specimen, really. You have it's a very good attack. The defense, I think, is underwhelming this year because they had made some improvements. So I mean, they just came off of a loss to Tampa, which makes sense, especially in Tampa, because Tampa's one of the best sides in the league. It's just going to be interesting that from there, how will they fare going into Toyota? I mean, expectations should be that we win, but this is Open Cup. Anything goes. I want the to make a run.
I think we all do, but we've seen that last year, the last time they got knocked out by a USL Championship team. So they can't just walk in there and think they're just gonna waltz over these guys. These teams from the lower leagues circle their calendar when they're going to play an MLS team, and you got to think there's a little extra fire in their step. And Dallas isn't going to play their best 11. They're going to play some guys that may be a little rusty, that maybe need minutes. So uh, it, the
Mm-hmm.
if they don't if they're not on their toes, they absolutely could have a team like Tulsa come in and beat them. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch.
Well, Buck asked this question: thoughts on rotation for the game tomorrow? And one thing that we've been chattering about in the background is that apparently the roster rules are different this year for the U.S. Open Cup, and that so teams are not bound by the limit to the 5 international players like it kind of has been in the past. So, which opens the door for Franco Jara to start. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it does open the door to some guys getting minutes that we would normally see with the senior team. But this is a good chance for them to, for FC Dallas, have more of those players on the field. And what do you guys think about what the lineup is going to look like tomorrow?
Go ahead, Ismail.
Yeah. All right. So I think keeper, we all think it's going to be Jimmy because Carrera is basically at North Texas. You're probably not going to play pass. I think you go center back. So you guys said Bartlett might play. I think he might come off the bench because I think you give Nkosi his minutes since he hasn't really been getting a lot of minutes. And, I mean, Quinones made the bench. So, I mean, I don't know if they are thinking of him as a wing back or as a center back, but, like, I'm working under the assumption that he's going to play center back. You probably have Munjoma and Parker as the wing backs because, again, they didn't play Parker. So he'll probably be left back and you play Munjoma at right back. He actually got on against Red Bulls at the end. A lot of people were saying Cerrillo might start. I sincerely hope it is Facu. I don't know if they will because he just played against Red Bulls, but just looking at Houston, I would prefer playing Cerrillo just because of the importance of that game, home turf, rivalry. And then I think the other 2 midfields will probably be Siki and Khalil. Khalil reportedly is playing in training as a midfielder because that's obviously we know is a spot that they're kind of limited at. I don't think they'll loan up Ferry, but that might happen.
And Nicky Hernandez just got loaned to San Antonio, so he's probably not.
Yeah. And then the attack is the fun part, right? So I think right winger, I think we can say probably they'll give Obrion that. I don't, maybe not. But the more interesting thing is, will Schoen start, right? Because if Schoen starts, then I think it'll be Schoen on the left and then Redzik up top because Redzik's been the other player in rotation at striker. If Schoen doesn't start, then you probably put Redzik out wide and Hara up top. It just depends on what really is happening with Schoen. I don't know. I mean, because like Javier just asked, Schoen was not on the bench this weekend, and he hasn't made an appearance. We've talked about his international duties, but I mean, he's had time, I think, at this point to integrate with the team fully. I would say it's been 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, since the international break. He wasn't even on the bench.
Right.
That seems like a worrying sign. Maybe he's gotten frozen out.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Ismail said. I do expect Hara to be the starter up top. I do expect Redzik on the left over Shun because, I mean, Nico has made no bones that Shun is not on the same page as everybody else, that he's lagging behind everybody else in integrating to the team. And that just sounds to me like someone who's going to be coming off the bench. I expect Obrian to start on the right. I do believe Cerrillo is going to start, but I don't think he'll play the full game. More like I expect him to start and be early sub out. I would be surprised if he plays more than a half. In all honesty, basically just to keep him sharp. going into the Houston game. The back line. So here's my thing: is I expect Bartlett and Tafari to be the pairing. I think if Bartlett wasn't going to start, he would have played for North Texas, but he didn't. So I think it's Bartlett Tafari is their pairing. I do expect Parker to start on the left. The right though, I'm kind of curious to see if it will be Munjoma or if they're going to give Quinones the start there. Here's a guy who can play all four spots, and I would be kind of watching to see if that happens. They very well could start Bartlett. I mean, Quinones ahead of Bartlett. But here's another thing that we're not considering: is Cirillo doesn't start, and neither does Facu, and they start out with a three in the back with Tafari, Bartlett, and Quinones, and then play Parker as a wingback, which he's more of a winger anyway, and Munjoma also as a right wingback, and then you have basically a three in the back formation. So that's one thing I'm curious about. I think when you look at the style of players that those three in the back line they're all young, physical, fast players. I think Quinones is more of a quick, faster player than the physical player, but they're the kind of athletic, fast players you'd want in a three-man back line. So I'm kind of curious. That's the one thing I keep an eye out. Is my wild card is it's a three-man back line.
I mean, three-man back line is a good shout. I haven't heard of them doing that at training. And I mean, the only time they've done that in the league was when they just try to match Colorado and they just drop Cirillo farther back to support defense. It was just moving Cirillo back. And they could, I don't know. I'd feel, I don't know. I'm not Nico, but
you'd feel uncomfortable. But I'm just saying,
yeah.
I'm just saying that with those three guys, I think I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a three-man back line. That's just my wild card throw out there for you guys. So if it happens, you can say you heard it here first. Not likely. It'll probably be more like along the lines of what Ismail said, but just throwing that out there.
I guess, I mean, we don't know. There's a chance Hernandez, Nicky only got a few minutes, I think, with San Antonio this past weekend. And so maybe there's a chance he comes back up and helps the team out.
I think he's loaned for the full year.
It's for the full year.
Yeah.
And everyone knows he's there to help knock out Austin FC from the tournament. So that's what I'll be cheering for.
Awesome.
Sleeper agent. Yeah.
That'd be great.
The plot within the plot. All right, good. Well, all right. So we have a lot to look forward to. But of course, the Open Cup, while we love it, it's just anything can happen. It can be wild. It can be gritty. And I remember that it was FC Dallas against New Mexico United, and just such a frustrating game as an FC Dallas fan to watch. But you give credit to New Mexico United for battling, and it gives a chance for a team like Tulsa just to make a run,
That was the start of Pepe playing for FC Dallas. That was his first game.
Nice,
cool.
Nice.
The only good thing about that game.
Nice little nugget.
Good little nugget, yeah. So, all right, then we're turning our attention to this weekend as FC Dallas plays Houston Dynamo, our hated rival. I mean, Austin's like that little is like your parents having a kid when you're in your teens. Like, it's just like, what is this guy doing around here? We don't really just he's annoying. But it's Houston that we have the true rivalry with. And interestingly enough, Houston has the same record as FC Dallas at this start of this season. Actually, FC Dallas right now is ranked just above Houston in the Western Conference standings, maybe because of home record. But same point kind of average and things. So, but a different schedule. Houston's had a much softer schedule to start the season, and FC Dallas has had to play some teams that like Toronto and Chicago and others who are on the rise. So let's talk about it. Talk about this match. First of all, what is different about Houston Dynamo this year with their new head coach Paulo Nagamura, an SKC guy through and through? How are they playing, Ishmael?
Well, I mean, we talked about it before the pod. The main thing is, so Nagamura had this style at SKC2 about like possessing and pushing the play forward slowly, but keeping possession. He tried that in his first game. It failed miserably, and now they're seating deep, pressing and counterattacking. Which again, I mean, credit to him. I mean, he reacted quicker than Tab Ramos did to reacting to how the team is built. Just not trying to force something out of nothing. And I mean, the team plays okay. They're they play a 4-2-3-1. Uh, two defensive mids, two very fast wingers, target forward, uh, a talented attacking midfielder with a decent skill set, and Quintero. They have two very good Brazilians just transitioning into the team. Um, one of them, I think, made the bench and maybe made an appearance this weekend. I think that's Zeka. I think that's how you pronounce it. Uh, the other one, I'm trying to remember his name, but he hasn't been on the bench yet. Tiago. His name's Tiago. He hasn't been on the bench yet. I think he was signed like 2 weeks ago, so he might not be available. I'm not sure. Um, I mean, star players on the team. It is really Quintero. This is when Quintero has played this season. He looks very good or very bad. He's either a star or disappears onto the field. Um, and I mean, the two defensive mids in Vera and Karskia. Karskia is not a defensive mid. He's like an 8. They're very good. They're very solid. Vera is one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. Karskia, very good 8, very good at transitioning. Uh, the DP has been disappointing until 2 weeks ago when they played San Jose, where he hadn't scored until then, and then he scored 2 goals. But the main thing is, like you said, they've had a very nice schedule. Their victories have been against Inter Miami, where they won 3-1 in Miami. They beat San Jose 4-3 at Houston. And their other victory, I'm trying to remember, their other victory was against Vancouver, who are bottom of the league for the West. So they've had a very nice schedule, and so have Austin.
Soft. They've had a soft schedule,
Soft.
and
Like
and
a
we should not
nice,
be.
like nice ripe orange, soft schedule, right?
I mean, they've had a soft schedule, and I think you can look at that schedule and look at their performances and say we shouldn't be surprised to where they're at. They've obviously improved from last year, and you're kind of jealous at some of their opponents they face and say, "God, why couldn't we play those guys?" So I think that's something where you say this is an opponent, even though it's a rivalry. I don't see why we can't come out with 3 points from that match. The teams look equal, but it's just mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors. Houston is here on smoke and mirrors. They've basically played a soft schedule, gotten some good home cooking, and really you have to wonder if they had the same schedule as FC Dallas, if they would be where they're at right now. So I think you're going to see Houston get exposed this weekend, and I'm not claiming that Dallas is going to dominate. This is a rivalry game after all, but I do expect FC Dallas to come out on top.
Okay, good 2-0 win would be nice.
That would be
right?
great. It would be great. I think that's just it. Is basically it's a match where you don't want to go into second half tied 0-0. So I think it's very important that the team get a goal early and force them to come out of that shell. Force them to open up, and then if that happens, if FC Dallas can get a goal early, then I could see a scoreline that's more than 2 goals, and that's what you want. You don't want to be going to second half wondering, who's going to score first.
Yeah, and I mean, I think tactically, when we're talking about what FC Dallas needs to be worried about, defensively mainly is about how well you mark Pico and
And
Pasher
Quintero, right?
and Quintero. Yeah, but like Quintero will be generally uh, on the ball trying to dribble through, and then he'll make that pass right to the winger. That's the play.
Hmm.
That's the play that they like to
Yep.
go with. And if you give Pico or Pasher like a step, which I mean, I love Tumasi, but he sometimes does that. And Farfan, I think the glitz and glam from his first 4 or 5 games is starting to wear off a little bit. It's not the same high level performance as it was at the beginning of the season. If you give them that step, they will get an opening, and it's not a shot that they'll do; it's a cross. And the thing is, again, Ferreira, their new DP striker, hasn't been consistent, but he did come off 2 weeks ago off of a brace against the amazing San Jose Earthquakes. They're an incredible team, right? But he just came off of a brace, so we know he can score. We know he can play off that. He can play off of that system. And I mean, defensively, just get past Vera. I mean, attackingly, you need to get past Vera. Once you get past him, Clark has not been as good as he was for Portland as a keeper. The center backs are not different; they're the same center backs. They haven't really improved that much. Just you get past Vera, you get past like he will be he's like a Guerrero kind of player. That's if you're thinking of how you want to compare Vera, he's like a Guerrero. You get past him consistently, you will get chances. If you don't, you won't get chances. So, I mean, that's kind of the play after you're attacking. Again, Paxton and Servina going out wide might be a problem because, again, you leave Quintero one-on-one against either Syria or Faku. At some point, Quintero is going to get through. And when he gets through, he will either get it out wide to the wingers to cross or he'll pull out magic from his hat like he sometimes does.
So, Thiago, by the way, started for Houston Dynamo 2 this past weekend. If you're wondering where he was, that's where he was, as they were putting up 4 goals on their opponents. Plays in a similar style, actually, to the parent club. You know, they play a very defensive-minded game. They sit back. They play the best team defense you're going to see in MLS Next Pro right now. They've only allowed 1 goal in 4 matches. That's tops. And they're a team that is more, and they're excellent at set pieces. In their first 3 matches, they scored 1 set piece every week. And so, like, their first 2 games that they won 1-0. They basically scored a set piece and were happy to just grind out the game. Their first 2 games. And now in the last 2 weeks, we've seen them suddenly start to click on the counter, where they basically score a goal. And then as teams open up, they hit you on that quick counter. They got really fast wings. Their danger guy is Palomino, number 10. He's got 4 goals for them. He's a right winger, and he is basically if you saw the Bernard Kamungo goal, that's basically the same thing. It's going to be whoever is starting at left back for North Texas is going to have their hands full, because that's the game. That's the play they're going to be doing. They're going to be trying to basically sit back, defend, and try to hit North Texas on the quick counter. Thiago could be starting on the opposite side. Same thing. He was basically a clone of Palomino. From what I saw, they could strike you on each sides. And then they've got their center forward, Papa Ndoye. He's got like 2 goals and 3 assists. Yeah. Yep. He basically has 2 goals and 3 assists, and all 3 of their attackers have basically been able to hit teams on the counter. They've scored 8 goals, or I think it's 8 goals in the last 2 weeks against their opponents, where they basically scored first. The other teams were forced to open up, and then they just hit them counter. They play in the style that you need to play to beat a team like North Texas, in the tried and true method that USFL League One teams play, which is sit back in a low block or mid block, defend, try to catch North Texas on the counter, and basically and be able to hit set pieces. They do 3 of the 4 things you need to do to beat North Texas. And the one thing they don't do well is they actually do turn over the ball quite a bit. For a team that's so defensive, they actually do turn the ball over a lot, and North Texas punishes teams that do that. North Texas is one of the few teams that can take a turnover and score on you within seconds. And mind you, Houston's shown that they can do that too. So it's going to be a very interesting game of cat and mouse. They both have one opponent that they both played, and that's San Jose Earthquakes, who North Texas beat in San Jose 1-0, and Houston beat at home 1-0 off a set piece. So I expect a very evenly matched game. I would not be shocked if Houston walks out of there with a draw, because they play so well defensively. But ideally, it's probably going to be a 1-0 game, and the question is who gets that goal. Because if Houston gets that goal, and oh, by the way, they've scored early in every game. The latest they've scored a goal is 28 minutes last week. Other than that, they've scored in the 20th minute, the 7th minute, the 8th minute, and the 28th minute. So they're very good at getting that early goal and then just sitting back and letting you basically get impaled on their defense. So should be an exciting game. By the way, the top three teams in the Western Division and in MLS Next Pro are all in the same division: Houston, North Texas, St. Louis City, SC2. The top 3 teams in the league all play in the same division. How crazy is that?
Good stuff. Interesting stuff. It's going to be a good week of soccer, a good week of action there in Frisco and in Choctaw Stadium. So good stuff to watch and see how things unfold. And of course, we got to say, as our friend Javier said, we got to crush the orange. It's time FC Dallas to reassert dominance.
We're gonna crush the orange and the baby orange. So we got
the orange and the baby orange.
We got to crush them both. Make some orange juice.
Yeah, I mean they're. I don't really care about like excuses. If you get outperformed at home, that's not a good.
There's
that will
no
be the
excuse for
first
that.
bad result. So it needs to be a win. It always needs to be a win, no matter what. When it's against Houston.
Agreed. Agreed. By the way, another thing. Houston Dynamo 2, number 1 attack in the league. In the Western Conference, number 1 defense coming into the game. I believe North Texas is 2nd or 3rd on both. So should be a hell of a game.
Well, good. And jumping back to the Mavs, they're up 107-102. 33 seconds left.
Not a Mavs fan. Sorry.
Yeah.
What is basketball?
I am a bit of a Mavs fan, but I'll tell you all that story some other time. It goes way back.
I stopped watching basketball. I used to watch the NBA back in the 80s and 90s, but at some point I just lost, I lost interest in it. I think it's all the different rule changes.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, good. Well, let's leave it there for now. We're looking ahead to a full week of action. Of course, tomorrow evening, Tulsa, FC Tulsa at Toyota as the Open Cup play in action begins for FC Dallas. And then again this weekend, I think an afternoon game on Saturday against the Houston Dynamo. Should be an interesting one. Well, let's leave it there. Thank you. Of course, you can always subscribe if you miss our pod live, and find it wherever you find podcasts. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. And, of course, love to have you join us live as we continue to talk FC Dallas in North Texas.
Excuse me.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Night.